Sponsored by New Orleans Distillers, creators of fine spirits and liqueurs. Through dedication to science, art, and passion, blends of tradition and flavor emerge. For you, always locally crafted. New Orleans Distillers, classically Southern.
Tonight, inflation for March is at 8.5%, now at a 41-year high. And Elon Musk is now wanting to buy Twitter, the whole company, for $43 billion. And the Twitterites, they're in a tizzy. We have that and more tonight on this Good Friday. You're watching Wall Street Wrap-Up. Hi, I'm Andre Laborde, and welcome to Wall Street Wrap-Up on this Friday, April the 15th, 2022. I hope your week went well. Well, Elon Musk likes being on Twitter so much, he bought the company. Well, Elon Musk, presently, he owns 9% of the company, but he's looking to buy the remaining 91% by taking it private. And the Twitterites, well, they're in a tizzy. If Elon uses his Tesla shares, they're valued at $180 billion. But he'll be reducing his stake in Tesla from a 17% of ownership to a 13%. Now, if he doesn't use his own funds, he maybe can find another angel investor who would enjoy seeing Twitter be taken private. Maybe there's some billionaire out there who may like partnering with him and make this deal happen. We will keep you posted. And coming up tonight, have you been a victim of cyber attack or even just maybe emails or your computer? And if so, you definitely want to watch. Morgan Wright is the Chief Security Advisor for SentinelOne, formerly with the U.S. State Department, and over 18 years of law enforcement experience. Morgan has tips and advice for you to hopefully avoid being hacked or losing files due to a computer virus. But first, how did the markets do this week? Well, the stock market was working on a 4-day work week, being closed today due to Good Friday. Now, these were the closing prices as of yesterday, Thursday, April the 14th. All the indexes closed negative for the week. Now, this week, the Dow Jones ended at 34,454. It was down 0.75% for the week. And the S&P 500, they closed at 4,392, and that was down 2.5% for the week. And the NASDAQ, they ended at 13,350. That was down 2.8% for the week. Goldman Sachs has upgraded CrowdStrike to a buy with a new price target at $241 a share. And Morgan Stanley upgraded IBM with a $150 price target as well. Well, let's get to our guest this evening. Morgan Wright is the Chief Security Advisor at SentinelOne. He's got over 18 years of law enforcement experience in cyber crimes, and do we need him now? Hi, Morgan. Welcome to Wall Street Wrap-Up.
Hey, this is exciting. First time on. Hopefully you won't regret it before we're done.
I know we won't, because I've seen you many times and I've learned a lot from you. Morgan, cyber attacks are now occurring more, which was at in an infrequent basis. Now they're occurring even more. Do you find that cyber attacks are occurring now more on individuals more than businesses, or vice versa?
No, I think as Willie Sutton famously said, why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. So these gangs are going after where the money is. So whether it's ransomware gangs that are attacking, they've attacked the big targets, and the big targets are getting better at defending against these attacks. And so now, like water, it starts trickling down. So now they're attacking lower tier targets. So we're seeing businesses that don't have the same budget as your Amazons and your Apples and folks like that. They're starting to get hit more. So what we see is as the water settles, the targets shift, and those targets now need to start spending more money. And then when those targets spend more money and get better, then it'll shift down even more. Now, I say that to say this. Those are getting attacked, but individuals are still the number one way attackers get into these enterprises. They are still their identity, what they call the exploitation of credentials, is still the number one way to get into these systems. So they go after people to get to the big money. So if you're somebody out there say, well, they won't attack me, you're right, but they will go after you to get to the big systems.
For the individual, for our viewer out there, I know myself, I've many times gotten, and I'm sure many others have gotten too, an email that says, I'm overdrawn at my bank. And they'll have the name of my bank and such. So the immediately thought of is, I didn't know I was overdrawn. I thought I had, and you click on. Do you become compromised when you click on the email or the link?
Normally not the email, because there's usually that's a pretty sophisticated attack. But first thing you do is when you get an email like that, take a look. Is it addressed to you personally? Does it say, for example, Dear Morgan? Does it end in the last 4 digits of your account number? If it just says Dear Bank Customer, delete that thing. Don't even look at it. Don't even look at the link. Don't be the cat, your curiosity killed the cat. Don't be that person. Just get rid of it. But normally there's 2 ways they go after you. One is if you click the link, it may install malware. In other words, don't click these dodgy links, because just clicking the link alone may be enough for that attacker to install malware on your computer. But the second thing is, if you go through, a lot of these sites are designed to look like your actual Bank of America or Capital One, or whatever site. And so you log on, but you get this issue is you put your username and your password, and it gets an error. It said username not recognized. So you try it again. They're just they've just harvested your username and your password, and now they're going to go back and see if they can get into your account. Now, most banks and most financial institutions, for example, are really good about, do they recognize the device? They will send you should be using multi-factor authentication. That means username, password, and then another factor, whether it's a token that changes every 30 seconds or a number that's texted to you. You've got to do something to make it tougher, but that's what they're doing. Most of the time, it's to harvest your username and credentials, because that goes back to what we talked about before, identity. What's the number one thing they go after? They go after people to get to these systems.
Sure. Well, if for a person that by mistake does click on to that link and it does go, will this malware infect the whole computer to get your other passwords? Because I would bet that many people just have like one password that they think of, and they put the whole that same one in for almost everything. And it's usually like 1111 or 0000, something very, very simple. But will they go, and I'm just going to name pick a bank, Bank of America, let's say, and you click on that link thinking that you're checking on what you just thought was you're overdrawn on your bank account, when it's actually a cyber attacker. So will this now infect your whole computer to get your other passwords?
Not normally. What they do, again, they use the entry into one computer as a way to move what's called laterally. So once they get in, they want to move out to the other system. So if they're in your machine and they have some type of access, they will look then for network connections. The malware usually does, and then it spreads. For example, that's what ransomware does. It gets into a machine, it looks for network connections, it goes over those, because you're viewed as a trusted machine. You're viewed as trusted on the network. So then it's like coming into a place like a hotel, and they go, oh, Mr. Smith, we recognize you, and now you're free to roam the entire hotel. That's what happens, but you're not Mr. Smith. You're somebody who has hijacked Mr. Smith's credentials, or you've been able to install malware that allows you to surreptitiously sneak in through the window and then get into that network. So I will tell you, though, too, the most popular password tends to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but that is one of the there's 2 things real quick about passwords. Number one, it is a fiction that says you have to change your password every 90 days. You don't need to change a password until you have evidence of compromise of that password, because it's been shown and it's proven if you change your password, you change it to something that's now easier to guess. Because if it was, I like pizza, then it's I like pizza 1 and I like pizza 2 and I like pizza. It's not very original. So they're going to figure this out. Again, I go back to best thing you do, username, password, multi-factor authentication. There's a great site out there called Two-Factor Auth, TWO Factor Auth, AUTH.org. It lists almost I think everybody who's got multi-factor or two-factor authentication. It lists the sites and it shows you where to go to turn it on for yours. Facebook, Twitter, Bank of America, whatever it is you use, there's two-factor authentication for it.
So would this be like a firewall that would block maybe any kind of malware that's trying to get in?
Yeah, it's not firewall in the technical sense, but it's firewall in the sense of like it's another layer for somebody to have to get through to get into your stuff. So think about this. If I were to give you, in fact, I ran this experiment for a while, breakinandwin@gmail.com. I even gave people the password. I still have the email account up. I said, but if you can break in, then there's a phrase in there. You tell me what the phrase is. And I don't run the contest anymore, but I was doing it for $5,000. Everybody tried breaking in. They couldn't because they could get the username and password, which I gave to them. They just couldn't get past the third layer, which was, think of it like an onion. You peel back one layer, then you go to another, and then you hit the layer that's steel. You can't get past the steel door. So now that multi-factor authentication is that layer of the onion that makes it difficult for you to get in. And that's what you're doing. You're slowing them down. You're extracting an economic price out of these attackers, making it very expensive and very difficult to attack you. It's the difference between leaving your front door open, closing it, locking it. They may still get in, but you're gonna pay a heavier price to get in through a locked door than an unlocked door.
Interesting. Morgan, would you advise people, and I'll say this on my computer, if I put in a password, a little, and I think Microsoft has this, a little box will pop up and say, would you like us to remember this password? So most people, wanting to always to take the easy route, will go yes. That way, whenever they go into their bank account or whatever it may be, it'll automatically have it. Because of what we're talking about, is this something that maybe a computer user should not put on their computer? Or what are your thoughts?
You know, I will tell you, I do some of those, but I only do it for things to where risk of compromise. If it were compromised, it doesn't contain it's definitely not my bank. It's definitely not anything where I have stocks in, or anything where you can get to actual assets or funds. But if you want to do it out of convenience, look, most of the time, most users are going to be okay at home if they save those passwords, even in a corporate environment, because as long as you have multi-factor authentication, you can store that password, create an incredibly, in fact, just go to, I have a little thing that's up and running. It's totally free. It's called freepasswordcourse.com. I actually run through a way for you to create a passphrase and then a couple things you add to it, depending on the site you're on. Easy way to remember. But I have probably 50, 60 different passwords. If the FBI were to raid my house, and I hope that they don't because I haven't done anything wrong, but if they were, you wouldn't find a single password of mine written down, but yet I have a separate password for every site that I go to. And this is something I've tested against guys from NSA when I used to instruct out at the National Security Agency on behavior analysis. Talked to some guys later, said, hey, here's my plan. Here's what I do. It's much safer. And look, get a password manager. If you're not sure, LastPass, OnePass, there's several of them out there like that. I don't endorse any particular one, but something is better than nothing. Make the password hard and complex, and that's what most people do. They save it because they don't want to forget. They don't want to keep resetting their passwords because when you reset it, you make it easier to guess. But again, it's a convenience thing. Some people are going to say, "Oh, you should never save the passwords." One thing I don't save is I don't save credit card numbers, but I will save passwords.
And so that's interesting. So don't save your credit card number, but do save your...
No.
Because I know for those people who do a lot of Amazon shopping and such like that, they say, would you like to just keep this credit card on file?
Absolutely not. And here's why. A lot of people, one thing I like about the bank that I use, and I won't mention the name, but if you have a bank that has what's called virtual cards, I can log into an Amazon. I can log into a different site, stuff that I buy, stuff for training and stuff for first aid kits or whatever it could be. I can create now a virtual card number for every separate site that I log into. I just got through renewing my TSA pre-check authorization and my clear. But there's a different credit card number, virtual number for that. If they compromise the one credit card number that I use for, like, say, TSA, all I do is I delete that card. I don't have to go delete my main card because a lot of people will use one card and they'll tie it to 30 different accounts. Then they forget which account that I use this at, and then they get a notification. Oh, we couldn't renew your GoDaddy, your domain that you have had for 20 years because you didn't renew it because your credit card was no longer worked. It had been canceled. So there are a lot of ways, and people are going to say, oh, but that takes a lot of time. Well, let me tell you what takes a lot of time. Being a victim of ransomware and recovering, be a victim of identity theft and recovering, trying to reconstitute all your data that you've lost. That's what takes a long time. Simply spending an extra 10 seconds, 15 seconds to log into something, that takes zero time and will save you years and months of headaches.
For the individual and maybe businesses as well too, that have gotten an email from a hacker and says that we have your data, we want you to send, and normally it's not something, a huge amount of money, but it's something that will sting, $2,000, $3,000, but they want you to send it in Bitcoin, or we will release Bitcoin, or we will release your data out to the world. Is this normally just a scam that they really do? Scam?
It's a scam.
Yeah.
Easiest way to check, take some of that exact same language and put it into your favorite search engine, Bing, Google, whatever. And what you will find is other people saying, this is a scam. I had a friend of mine call me and said, hey, well, first of all, I won't mention this friend's name because he probably did it, but he said, hey, they have video of me, they got camera and stuff of me. I said, trust me, it's a scam. And what they do is it's just the shotgun effect. They spam a lot of people, hoping that one or two. In fact, if you look at when people do direct mail campaigns, if you get a 1.5% to 2% return on direct mail, that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. They're using the same law of large numbers with this. If they send out 100,000 emails, they're hoping that 1,000 people will send them each, $1,000 or $2,000, because some people don't know for sure, and they'll go, "Oh my God, do they actually have my data?" I actually had to talk one guy off the ledge. He's a radio guy. I've been on his show several times, and he called me and said, "Oh my God, they said this." I said, "Trust me, it's all a scam. Just take a breath. You're not storming the beaches at Normandy here. Just settle down and say no. And in fact, don't even reply to stuff like that." That's what they're waiting for, is once you reply, then they can start this psychological scam of threatening you with even more stuff and even bad things that will happen. Best thing to do is delete that. You can Google the phrase, but you will find the language in there. 99.99999% of the time, it's going to be a scam.
Is an email such as like what we're talking about, when you see tracer bullets going through the air, you see where it comes from because they're tracer bullets.
Right.
Can an email be traced from to the originator? That if a person gets a scam like this or something similar to that, wanting Bitcoin funds to be sent or such, and an email is occurring on there, is that traceable?
Yes and no. It's traceable, but here's the issue. So, the internet, you have to have a return address if you want somebody to send you something. It's like if you go to a website and you want to get information from that website, the website has to know where to send you information. So there's not really total anonymity in cyberspace now, but what people will do is they will use email addresses, for example, Proton Mail. You can trace it back to that, but I believe they're a Swedish company. They keep no logs. So even if you're able to trace it back, they can't tell you who that particular email account belonged to or who that IP address belongs to. There's ways, there are sites out there to where you can copy and paste the headers out of your emails and it will show you the chain. A lot of times you'd be surprised. Sometimes there's 15 to 20 to 25 hops that an email goes through before it reaches you. But you know what? Most of the time, these come from countries where we have no extradition treaty, no what's called MLAT, Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. So your chances of getting somebody out of Russia back to the United States for trial, you got to, as I told somebody one time, you got a better chance of seeing God. Just not going to happen.
As the old saying goes, slim to none, and Slim just left town. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
For the scams like what you're talking about, would it be best to assume that many of them, if not most, are not somebody from another state, but from Russia or from another foreign country, Nigeria, or name a country?
Absolutely. Well, so people, how many people, that are listening now and that will listen later, if I can't see it, but if I said, raise your hand if you've ever gotten an email from somebody that says, hey, I'm the Crown Prince in Nigeria, or my family has this $10 million. And, we need you to do stuff. People go, why do they keep sending that out? Because it still works. There are people out there who will engage in conversation and give them information. So, yeah, most of these emails come from outside the United States. The United States is a big target. But I will tell you the one email I am concerned about, and it's called business email compromise. It will come in looking something like this, to where I will send you an email to say, hey, I'm the big boss, I'm the executive, I'm the CEO. We have a deal going down right now. I need you to authorize this invoice that I just sent you. Send $350,000 right now. You got to send it here. By the way, I'm in a meeting. I can't be disturbed. I left my phone in my car. They have reasons why they can't be contacted, but I need you to do it right now. And what they've done is they've spoofed. They've impersonated an email address, or sometimes they've actually been able to get the actual account, break in and get the actual account, because If you don't have multi-factor authentication, if I get your username and password, I can now get into your email account and send an email purporting to be the CEO. This is called business email compromise. It's one of the fastest growing frauds out there. It does not require you to click on a link. It does not require you to install malware. It's social engineering. It's the use of manipulation, influence, and deceit to get you to take an action you believe is trusted, but which is otherwise not trusted. And if you think that there's not big money in this, let me change your opinion here. The largest business email compromise case was prosecuted out of the Southern District of New York. A husband and a wife out of Romania were able to convince a third-party processor of invoices that I'm the CFO of the client company. We're changing our bank. This bank happened to be over on the western edge of China, just right outside China, but in a new place. $95 million in 1 week they were able to divert of funds. And that's the price that business email compromise can cost people, because you believe it, you fall for that sense of urgency. It happens with mortgages, it happens with other things like that. So the type of email I'm very concerned about is the one that creates this false sense of urgency that gets you to send money or take action. And that's where I say slow down. Pick up the phone, verify with the actual person. Do not take Edgar Allan Poe's advice. Believe nothing that you hear and only one half that you see. Don't believe anything in email. If that little back of your neck, the hairs there just even rise up, just even a fraction of an inch, pick up the phone, call somebody and get real authorization. In fact, your company should have dual authorization schemes set up to where you cannot just do something like that. It has to go through the CFO, then it has to go through somebody else. So, but to tell you, business email compromise is big money right now.
We're talking with Morgan Wright. Very happy to have him. He is the Chief Security Advisor for SentinelOne. We're going to take a break, but we'll be right back. Talking right now with Morgan Wright. He is the Chief Security Advisor for SentinelOne. Do they find that they make scam artists? Do they make more money by going, I need $2,000, rather than the big money? Or what they can make off of a one-hit $350K is better than all the little $1,000, $2,000? What is the mindset with these type of scammers?
When I was a detective, I made several arrests, worked with the FBI, worked with our Kansas Bureau of Investigation on bank robberies. And you know what? You're going to go to prison, whether it's really 5 million or 5,000. So you're going to prison. Most of these folks, they shoot too low. So to your point, the small money, they're not going to go after. Let me tell you who's fallen victim to business email compromise. Facebook, Google. Because they're such a big company, they target somebody inside there. They send them fake invoices. Big company, they pay it. This happened just recently within the last couple of years. So, most of these folks are going to go after larger targets with larger amounts of money. Now, large amounts of money to us, but relatively speaking, look, when I was at Cisco, I was in charge of public safety, homeland security, all the solution development. We had, Cisco at that time revenue was $52 billion a year. $350,000 is a rounding error in a $50 billion company. So at that point, it doesn't raise the level. If you're a $2 million to $5 million a year company, $350,000 would wipe you out. So a lot of these scammers, they look at who they're going after, they look at their threshold for pain, and then they create an amount of money that is not so high that it raises the red flags, too much, but it's not so low that it's not worth their time. So there's a little bit of research that goes in when somebody does business email compromise. But look, anybody can fall victim to it. That's why you just gotta, just to do the Nancy Reagan, just say no. Nobody dies because you didn't send $350,000 right away. If you call and you get confirmation, then if you've got bad leadership and bad management that says, oh, you shouldn't have done that, you should have sent the money right away, you're working at the wrong company. You want the people who say, thank you for doing that, thank you for protecting the company, protecting our shareholders, protecting the employees. Because I will tell you, you lose $350,000, you may have put 2 to 3 people out of a job. I don't want to be the one responsible for that.
Sure. And by the way, Morgan, before when you were talking about when the camera was on you, that for our viewers who have raised their hand, for anybody who's gotten the email that from Nigeria, please send your bank account. I have gotten that a number of times. I've never fallen for it, but I'm one of those, like
Yeah.
what you were just saying, that have gotten that. Morgan, what should a person do if they get one of these emails and it looks suspicious? Is there the local law enforcement? Is it the national of a Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI? Where should a person go to at least to alert somebody?
Most of the time, I will tell you, in practice, you're not going to, just the fact that you got an email, you're not going to report it. But if you for some reason clicked on it or find yourself being involved in that, IC3, the interstate crime, the interstate complaint, I just basically FBI, it's the IC3. There's so many acronyms going around right now.
Yeah.
But the FBI runs the Internet Crime Complaint Center. Yeah, ICCC, the Internet Crime Complaint Center. You can go there and you can register a complaint to say, hey, look, I just got scammed, or I got duped for this, or somebody tried to get me to click on this link. The other person that follows this is the Secret Service. The Secret Service was running basically what they called the Nigerian Prince letters. They had a whole task force set up to do that. So IC3.gov, the Internet Crime Complaint Center, or your Secret Service, you can find all of those things online. Just make sure the domain ends in a .gov. A lot of people will be searching for stuff. And by the way, for a long time, whitehouse.com was a porn site. And people would type in whitehouse.com and go to that, and that's how they would drive traffic.
There's a lot of jokes that I could even say, but unfortunately, my time constraint, I don't have the time. But that's for our next show, Morgan. I appreciate it. Morgan, thank you for doing, and I hope you come back.
Anytime.
Thanks a lot, Morgan. Well, if you've got a question about finance or a comment about the show, we would love to hear from you. Make it pithy, make it concise, and write us at Andre@WallStreetWrapUp.info. But now for a look ahead for next week. But first, on this day, April the 15th, the very first McDonald's franchise opened its doors. What year was it? We'll have that answer in just a moment. On this day, April the 15th, the very first McDonald's franchise opened its doors. What year was it? April 15th, 1955. The very first franchise opened in Des Plaines, Illinois. Well, coming up next week, we've got a great guest that you will not want to miss. Next week, we're going to be talking with the former ambassador to NATO and Texas Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. Senator Hutchison will be talking to us about the latest about Ukraine, NATO's response, or maybe lack of, and should the Ukrainians be armed with the S-300 anti-air defense missiles or be given the MiG-29 jets that Ukraine is requesting? That's next week on Wall Street Wrap-Up, former ambassador of NATO and Texas Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. Well, as a reminder, we repeat the show on Sunday mornings, but the best way is to set your DVR so you'll never miss an episode. And that is our show for Friday, April the 15th, 2022. I hope you've enjoyed it. My thanks to Morgan Wright for joining us this evening. But as always, it's you. We appreciate you for allowing us into your homes tonight. Remember, follow us on all the social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, and YouTube, and WYES.org. So enjoy your weekend ahead. Have a productive week as well. Have a great Good Friday. I'll see you next week. For Wall Street Wrap-Up, I'm Andre Laborde. Remember, money never sleeps. Good night.
Sponsored by New Orleans Distillers, creators of fine spirits and liqueurs. Through dedication to science, art, and passion, blends of tradition and flavor emerge. For you, always locally crafted. New Orleans Distillers, classically Southern.